This session is inspiring a new generation of farmers. What is the common characteristics that I'm seeing around the world of young people that are being successful farming? So, hold on to your hats. Here we go. We've already set a lot of context, so don't have to go over the 60-year-old farmer, the need for the new farmer. So, here's what we're finding on commonalities of successful people. Number one, every farm has more opportunities than it can imagine. Every farm has more, in other words, successful farmers, successful young farmers, startup farmers are farmers who come to the farm assuming that there's more opportunity than they can imagine. Are you with me? If you want to be unsuccessful, then come with the mentality that, we just can't do any more on this place. Every single farm has more opportunity than it believes. And so, for example, when I was just starting, Dad and I sat down 35 years ago, and we sat down and we wrote out all of the opportunities that we thought that our farm could do at that time, and realized that it was just in its infancy, and we came up with about 30 salaries from our little farm. That wasn't renting land. That wasn't doing anything that we're doing today. That was just looking at what could be done. I mean, there's not a farm around that's growing beef cattle that can't also raise pasture chickens, that can't also do honeybees, that can't also do turkeys, that can't also make all of that into broth, quiche, cuts, and are you with me? And you start down that road, and suddenly you're developing a tremendous amount of salaries. So rather than thinking that in order to start, we need more land in order to start, think about what you can do on a given. I just had a guy come up to me a minute ago. He's got half an acre, and he turned $20,000 on his half acre this year. That's pretty decent on half an acre. Every time I hear a new thing, I was out in Edmonton, big city, and a lady came up to me, and she wanted to farm desperately, but she lived in the middle of Edmonton in a condominium, didn't own anything. How am I going to start? So she had a friend. She had one friend that had a backyard. She went to the friend. She said, would you mind if I put a garden? I just want to grow something. I put a garden in your backyard. The friend said, oh, sure. Carved out a little, 5 meter by 4 meter spot there and put your garden there. She put the garden in. Well, the next neighbor saw the garden. It was so beautiful and pretty. She told her, said, well, could you put a garden in my place? And within 2 years, she's got a full-time business farming 15 backyards, and the business is called On Borrowed Ground in Edmonton, a full-time farm business. So every time you think you've heard of the most amazing thing, there's something else. I mean, there's a guy in, I think it's Kenya, in Africa, who only has a small acreage, and so he went and was able to find a bunch of culverts, big culverts, and he poked holes in them, stood them up, cut them 12 feet tall, set them up, they're like 3-foot wide culverts, packed them full of compost, put drip irrigation at the top. He plants cabbages in the sides of these culverts, and he's got the equivalent of 25 acres of cabbages in 1 acre of 12-foot vertical culverts. I mean, folks, when I say that the opportunities are limitless, that's what I really mean. I'm not playing games. I'm not pulling your leg, okay? I really mean that. And what we're seeing with farmers that are successful is they have to come to it with a mentality that there's opportunity here. They can't come with a defeated mentality that it's too cold, too hot, too dry, too small an acreage, too big an acreage, whatever. But they have to come to the landscape with the idea, with the mindset that it's a place of unprecedented opportunity, no matter where it is or when it is. All right, number 2, portable infrastructure. All right, follow me through. I've waited until this time to tell you this because this is one of the coolest things you'll ever hear. All right, if I showed you slides of our farm, one of the first things that you would take away is, good grief, everything moves. Yeah, everything moves. Here's the problem. What's the capital cost? What's the capitalization hurdle for starting a farm? The capitalization hurdle is the land. That's the land, okay? You take the land away, man, you can start farming pretty well. So here's what I want you to think about. When you go to portable infrastructure, and that includes control, shelter, water, the whole deal. When you go to portable infrastructure, suddenly you can divorce the farm from the land. Okay? The difference between a farm and any other piece of land is what a farmer does to it. This is one of my problems with farm land preservation efforts. They too often try to lock up and preserve farm land, but don't preserve farmers. And if you don't preserve farmers, you just make big wilderness areas. Okay? And so what a farmer does to the land is the infrastructure on the land, the stuff, the things that the farmer brings to the land is what he does. The land is there, okay? And so if we have portable infrastructure, then we can remove the farm from the land, and when you separate those two, suddenly you have lowered the threshold of entry. Now, an aspiring farmer can build a farm on land that he doesn't own, whether it's in a preservation district, a city park, the median of the interstate, a farm friend, whatever. Because the whole farm can go on a trailer and go down the road. And this is exactly what we've done. We've got, the cow-shaped mobiles, the turkey gobbledygoes, the egg mobiles. And you all see is we got 800 chickens, these egg mobiles. And we hook them behind the pickup and move them from farm to farm. You pull up to a stoplight. There's chickens up there looking down on the cars, We've often said we need to get a commission from all the chiropractors in the area for all the whiplash we give people. What are they doing? This lunatic farmer. And so it's really amazing. You can then rent land. You can squat on land. You can do whatever, but you can farm nooks and crannies because portable infrastructure is scalable. It's scalable up as well as scalable down. And so you don't have to own that land. It's I call it nook and cranny farming. You really drop that capitalization cost. Portable infrastructure. Number three is multiple use infrastructure. If you're going to have infrastructure, if you're going to buy a machine, if you're going to build a building, if you're going to you do any kind of infrastructure, you want multiple use. You don't want to just put in a water line for cows. If you're going to put in a water line, you want to use it for pigs and chickens and turkeys and orchard trees and irrigation. Are you with me? You want to use it for different things. I mean, that's one of the reasons I love pole structures, pole buildings, pole sheds. Because the whole inside is fairly open, and you can hang gates, you can have barn dances, you can do trade fairs, you can have seminars, you can have pigs in there, compost. There's a million things that you could do in there. So multiple use, like our hoop structures in the winter. In the winter, when it gets cold, our laying chickens and the rabbits and the pigs go in big tall tunnels, hoop houses. We've got 5 of them, okay? So they go in there in the wintertime on deep bedding. In the spring, we pull out this deep bedding compost and then plant vegetables right in the floor. And so during the spring, summer, and fall, they're growing tomatoes and peppers and cantaloupes and watermelons and sweet corn, whatever, vegetables in there in the debugged, highly fertile, composted floor. And about the time they start getting bugs in the fall, in the early winter, We come back in with the animals and the chickens, debug it, scratch it all up, root it all in, turn it all up, and renovate the house for the next year. And so you're using the facility for multiple things, multiple times in the year, multiple income streams. That's one of the killer things that farmers do is buy single-use depreciable equipment. What do you do when a child comes home that's gone to a seminar like this, comes home to the confinement dairy operation and says, "Hey, Dad, Grandpa, I went to this thing. We could just forget filling the silo, the bankruptcy tube, and we could just turn the cows out on the grass with some electric fence and let the cows, self-harvest and graze seasonally, and we milk 9 months of the year. It takes 3 months off, and paint and fix and go to Bermuda vacation, and we don't have to haul any manure. The cows fertilize it themselves. The enthusiastic kid, gets about that point, and Grandpa goes, "What? Don't you know we spent a lifetime trying to borrow money, pour concrete, bend rebar, build all that stuff, and you just gonna walk away from it? Whose child are you?" That's what happens. So be careful the infrastructure. Use multiple use infrastructure. Number 4, start with the smallest entity possible. Most people, when they start and launch an enterprise, we're told in our, Dominion type of culture, our, empire-building mystique, think big. You want to think big, right? Well, we've learned that you have a higher success rate if you think small. Don't think about how big this farm business or whatever, this entrepreneurial launch you're doing. Don't think of how big it can be. There's plenty of time to dream about that. Dream about how small it can be and be viable. Right now, we're in the negotiations of starting a restaurant in Stanton. And it's interesting how, as we've talked to people that we are looking at running it, they're always looking at how many things can we do? How big can this be? How many plates, how many things? And I'm saying, no. What we want to think is, how few people are required to make this thing viable? Think acorn, not tree, think acorn. Because if it can't be viable as an acorn, it'll never make a tree. See? So don't think big, think how small it can still be. Embryonic prototypes. Okay, number 5. Collaboration is critical. As I mentioned at the, second talk today, when people ask what's the biggest mistake you made, and I said probably not bringing on other people fast enough. And I already discussed it. Some of this is a rehab, but it's good to kind of get it all, put together. Collaboration is critical. Again, farmers tend to be the most independent people on the face of the planet. We don't want to hear the other guy's ideas. We don't want to go, we just don't want. We just want to stay home and do our thing, right? And so the fact is that the gifts and talents necessary to be a successful farm business, all the variety of gifts and talents to be successful, don't grow on the same pair of legs. That's the truth. I had a wonderful discussion with one of our former apprentices who was out and trying to go, and he was struggling. And it struck me, it was like an epiphany. It struck me, and he was not married, he was trying to go it alone and everything. And it suddenly struck me, I have never been alone. We came, the family came, I was a kid, grew up there, always had dad and mom. And Teresa and I got married, lived there, had her, and had dad and mom, and had the family, and then, we had kids, and never got them. And I've never been alone, and I'm realizing what a blessing that is. If you're alone here and you're wanting to farm, go hook up with somebody and get married tomorrow. Get a partner, okay? Whether it's a relative or not a relative or whatever, but Yeah, I'm not from West Virginia, so. But collaborative partnerships are powerful, and what you're trying to do is find those things. Remember, people that are strong where you're weak, and that's a very powerful thing. And what we see typically are really successful young startup farms are multi-person places. Now everybody might not be earning a living from the farm. You know, it might be. But you're tapping into the gifts and talents of other people. Number six, fiefdoms are superior to employment. And I'm not going to belabor that one because we spent a lot of time talking about fiefdoms rather than employment. But in other words, rather than these things that I'm talking about that you don't like to do or you're not good at, rather than trying to hire somebody outright to do that, try to create a leveraged way for them to bring shared risk to the table, shared incentive to the table, and make a bigger pie. Okay? That's the idea. Number 7. This is a good one. Equity. Equity is in management and knowledge. The farm equity is in management and knowledge. I can assure you that on our farm, the true value of the farm is not the land, it's not the buildings, it's not the machinery. The true value of the farm is the information and character that we leverage to use the buildings, to buy the right equipment, and to leverage the land the way it's supposed to be leveraged. There are plenty of people who inherit farms and go broke. You know, like the joke about the guy in Pennsylvania that won the lottery, the farmer that won the lottery, they asked him, well, what are you going to do with that $1 million? He said, I guess I'll just keep farming until it's all gone. That's kind of the mentality, right? And so what this means is if our equity is in management and knowledge, again, it's portable. You know, if I walk over here, if I farm over here instead of over there, I don't leave my character and management and information over there. I can take that with me. And you know what? You don't have to borrow character, management, and information from the bank. You don't have to, anybody go into the bank, you know, I want to borrow money for character. No, you don't borrow money for character. You know, you can't borrow money to get you out of bed in the morning and not have 5 cups of coffee before you go out and do chores. That's character. You don't go to the bank and borrow that, okay? So the equity is in the management and knowledge. All right. Okay. Let me mention one thing. I haven't talked much about marketing today, but I want to say one thing about marketing because it goes right with this point. I mentioned buying clubs, metropolitan buying clubs. We don't do CSAs. We don't do farmers markets. What we do are metropolitan buying clubs. It was kind of an invention of ours that kind of combined CSA, farmers market, roadside stand, all those kinds of things. What it is, and what I want you to write down, your takeaway here, is I want you to write the phrase electronic aggregation. The institutional or industrial retail interface has always, or at least in our lifetimes in this room, it has always required a physical retail interface, especially with bricks and mortar and a cashier. Okay? We are rapidly, as an advancing, technologically advanced culture, we are rapidly moving away from a bricks and mortar cashier-based interface. Look at Amazon.com. I mean, even a Luddite like me has bought stuff on Amazon.com. Now, I didn't do it, my wife did it, but it was something I wanted. But you don't have to be particularly culturally savvy to know what's happening with electronic marketing. All right? In fact, there have been some interesting studies done at Massachusetts Institute of Technology measuring carbon footprints. This will be interesting to you environmentalists in the group. Where they've actually measured the carbon footprint of electronic aggregation compared to a supermarket for food. And what they're finding is that electronic aggregation, having a distribution truck that stops at house A, B, C, D with customized groceries is a smaller carbon footprint in distribution than all of those households going to the supermarket to buy. It's less of a carbon footprint to put it all on a FedEx truck and send it around the community and make stops at doorsteps than it is all those doorsteps to get in their individual automobiles and drive to the supermarket. In fact, I had a CEO of one of these fairly hefty startups, electronic aggregators, recently tell me that he thinks that in 5 years, Walmart will be out of the grocery business. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? So what we've done is created an electronic shopping cart. All right, this is how we service our 5,000 metropolitan buying club families. There's 30 drop points in the urban area up to 4 hours away. 4 hours away gets you to pretty big cities in most places. All right, and so to 4 hours away. And the beauty of it is that people shop from an electronic shopping cart. So all of our groceries have a picture and an explanation, and you just shop in a shopping cart. How many of you use electronic shopping carts? Sure, lots of people. Okay, well, more and more are doing that, and so you can shop. And the beauty of this is you can shop on your time, not my time. If I'm standing there at farmers market, or at a farm stand, or a CSA stand, waiting for you to make your decision on, well, do I want that package or this package, or that one or this one? I gotta wait there for you and your significant other to sit there and make a decision. It might take 15 minutes for a $5 sale. But in electronic marketing, electronic aggregation, all those decisions are made in the bedroom at 2 o'clock in the morning, as you're looking at the electronic shopping cart. And I know I'm sleeping at 2 o'clock. People in the city, they shop, it's unbelievable. Why don't you go to bed, you can go, you can set the alarm, get up at 2 o'clock and go into the background of our little tick sheet, because we've got software that monitors the inventory, and you can see them, the 1,537 pounds of ground beef, it's ticking down, it's 36, 35, 34, 30, People are buying at 2 o'clock in the morning, but it's their time, not my time. We have found that for us, it's way more efficient marketing to do electronic aggregation and shopping cart marketing like that than it is even to have people come to the farm and buy stuff. I'd rather they buy on the internet than even come to the farm. Now, not theoretically, because I want them to come to the farm, but as if I were looking at pure efficiency, I wouldn't want them to, I would just assume they do nothing but the shopping cart. So electronic aggregation gets rid of the time and infrastructure overhead that must surround a retail interface. So we're working with one outfit right now called Relay Foods. It's one of these startups. They've already gobbled up 2 smaller ones. They're an up-and-comer, and they're working in the Mid-Atlantic region with about 80 farms, and they're an online grocery store. And they're working with about 80 farms. You can do everything from fresh shrimp from Chesapeake Bay to fresh stone ground GMO-free flour from a water-powered mill to our meats, whatever. But all the farms are listed, and so people can shop through there. And every week they dispatch a pickup, not a pickup truck, but a truck to pick up, out to the farms and pick up the orders for the week. And take them to a warehouse, assemble them overnight, and distribute them the next morning. And it's extremely efficient and providing a market for all these people. They just took 300 turkeys from us, and I don't know, 3,000 broilers, and I mean, these guys are going places. The beauty of this is that we can get economies of scale and distribution. One of the biggest problems in the local food system is economies of scale and distribution. You know, you just, even though you're only driving 30 or 40 miles to a farmer's market, if all you're taking is a pickup truckload, here comes Jolly Green Giant with 48,000 pounds of green beans in the back of his truck. Even though he's going 1,500 miles, it's a smaller carbon footprint for him going 1,500 miles and 48,000 pounds than it is for you going with a pickup truck 80 miles. So the electronic aggregation allows us to pre-sell, to offer everything we have in inventory, not just what we took to farmer's market. It's never sold, well, you know, it doesn't sell out when what we took to farmer's market sells out. It sells out when the whole inventory is gone, which gives a lot more choice. People can cherry pick. They can buy anything from a half a dozen eggs to a whole beef, okay? And we've even sold lumber or whatever, okay? And just to show you the power of this, we have a neighbor that does apple juice. It's Golden Acres Apple Orchard. They were featured in Plowboy interview in Mother Earth News back in the 70s. Well, the dad has passed away. The son now is taking over the orchard. The dad was the entrepreneur, gregarious, storyteller, schmoozer, marketer, built the business. The son's come in. Arguably, the son, John, is probably a better orchardist than his dad, okay? But he's a terrible marketer. Weather's bad. Can't get no help. Yeah. And so we've used their apple juice forever. You know, personally, we've drunk it. I mean, it's cold pressed. You know, it's got an inch of sediment in the bottom of the jug. You know, you shake that thing up in January, and you got to be careful. You got to pace yourself because you know you suddenly drink this 2 glasses of apple juice, and suddenly you're like, "Ooh, I just ate 6 apples." And you spend 24 hours, you know, working through the process. So I went to John and said, "John, would you mind us helping you market the apple juice?" He said, "Oh, I would love it," because the business was actually going downhill because he was just not a marketer. So all we did was just another line on our shopping cart, you know, Golden Acres apple juice. Boom, we're suddenly selling $40,000, $50,000 of his apple juice, 70% of his whole sales, we're selling just with adding a line. Guess what? Our customers are paying us for delivery by the pound, 28 cents a pound. Just adding his apple juice to our truck pays our whole gas bill, so all our meat's free delivered. Okay? This is the power of collaboration and electronic aggregation. And it's all pre-bought, pre-sold. Okay, that's number 7. Number 8, direct marketing. Okay. Again, when I say direct marketing, don't stiffen up and say, "Oh, I can never do that." Think about a person that you know who could sell. You're looking for a person who can sell ice cream to a Eskimo, all right? We're looking for people who can sell can sell. It doesn't matter what they're selling. People who love to sell can sell. I mean, do you know that there are people out there who can't wait to get out of bed in the morning and make a cold call to a customer? Can you believe that? And so direct marketing. Here's the deal. All of us have grown up in farming with this notorious middleman thing. Remember, the middleman makes all the profits, right? Haven't you ever heard middleman makes all the profits? Well, instead of demonizing the middleman, if that's where the profits are, sign me up, I want to be one. When we start wearing those hats of processor, marketer, distributor, okay, graphics artist, when we start wearing all those hats, suddenly we have enough critical mass and enough critical parts that we can make a higher margin per unit. Now, on our very small farm, we can make a living with not very many units because we're wearing all the hats of the middle part of the chain of custody in food. So this spreads the customer base. It gives us emotional and economic support because now instead of just selling to the grain elevator or selling to one customer, now we're selling to a whole bunch of customers. Suddenly, when there's a shakeup in the economy, even during the Great Depression, 80% of people never lost their jobs. 80%. So we've got 5,000 families. So even if economy tanked to where 20% of people lost all their jobs, which would be a major economic catastrophe, we'd still have 4,000 customers. Okay? So by direct marketing, it builds resilience and spreads out the risk. Number 9. There are 10 of these. Number 9. Solutions are from the inside out, not the out there somewhere. The answer is seldom out there. The answer is generally in here. Okay? And what that means is that our innovation, our creativity, has to be focused on tapping what we can do with the resource base that we already have. Not coveting the neighbor's land. I mean, most farm boys, kids, grow up coveting the neighbor's land. You know, if there's going to be a second salary on this farm, we've got to expand to the neighbor's place. So they all sit around like vultures, you know, waiting, hoping the other guy's going to die before your own dad, you know, so maybe you can, you know, get the other places. And I would suggest it is not a neighborly thing to grow up coveting your neighbor's land. So if you're not going to do that, how do we extricate ourselves from that? Well, we realize that the opportunity is from the inside out. Well, what does that mean? What that means is that we are stacking enterprises. We are getting a hold of water. I mean, I'll give you an example. Right now on our farm, this was our year of irrigation. We've jumped into the irrigation. We finally got enough ponds built. We invested in the K-line system from New Zealand. It's fantastic. We're just totally sold on it, ready to, you know, triple it next year. So the bottom line is that, let's say, you know, water's a problem on your place. Maybe you don't have as much drought problem here, but I bet you've got droughts in Ontario too. It's all relative. You have bad years. All right, well, just imagine if to be completely waterproof, it costs $500 an acre, say you have 100 acres, $50,000 to build enough water impoundment to catch water during a couple of rain events a year, snow melt, a big rainstorm, flood, whatever, to catch enough water to dispense to give you complete protection, security out into a drought. Well, our experience shows that will easily double in a drought situation. You can double your production. Or maybe it's, if you're in crops or in vegetables, it can be the difference between a crop and no crop. All right. Let's just say for sake of discussion that it is a way to, on average, double production by having completely secure, guaranteed water to double production for $500 an acre. It's a lot of money. Has anybody bought $500 land recently? My point is, it's a lot cheaper to work from the inside out and truly build forgiveness and resiliency in hydration, guaranteed hydration, than it is to buy more land. Okay? That's just one example, but there are tons of them. Solutions are from the inside out. You know, fertilizer is the answer to buy fertilizer from the outside in, you know, like a factory, you know, inflow, outflow. Or rather, is the idea of soil fertility really an internal issue in which we create a carbon-centric energy flow that takes current sunbeams, converts it into biomass, either runs it through an animal, through a compost pile, through something, and we actually generate it on the inside. So, for example, if you're a grain farmer, what you're looking for is, since you're taking grain off the farm, instead of selling that grain, put that grain through animals. That will double its value. You'll keep all the manure. And if you grow a tall-stemmed grain instead of a short stem, now you've got all this extra carbon, and you have a different enzyme flow in the seed heads, which eliminate gluten intolerance and all sorts of cool things. So the point is that you can grow from the inside out rather than the outside in. Okay? And finally, number 10, movement creates movement. Man, I mean, so many young people ready to start, and they're paralyzed. Deer in the headlights, you know. I don't know what to do. I don't know what, you know. How am I going to be a full-time farmer? I've got questions about what they're going to do, that sort of thing. Be encouraged, because every journey starts with one step. Many of us in this room that are over 30 probably are doing things right now that we never envisioned doing when we were 15 or 18. And saying, and the big question, what are you going to do in life, my goodness, life takes twists and turns, doesn't it? Sure it does. And very few of us are actually doing things that we would have expected. One of our first female apprentices was from a college in North Carolina that is one of these, started in the 1880s as one of these colleges for farm kids. They had a big farm, and it was cheap because they raised all their own food. And today, still, all the students have to join a work team, the plumbing crew, the electrician crew, the landscape crew, the farm crew at the college, and so it's a work study, and it's a wonderful place. And when I was talking to the college advisor, when we were going to take this apprentice gal, and I was really intrigued by this whole setup, and he said that their follow-up studies from the college show that when they check up with students 5 years after graduation, 80% of the students 5 years after graduation, 80% of them are working. This is the liberal arts schools, a lot of environmental science majors and and English and all this stuff. 80% of the students 5 years after graduation are not working in the area of their college academic degree. They are working vocationally in the area of their work-study program. That, of course, goes along with my idea that I think that we have marginalized working with your hands and blue-collar arts and crafts work. There's not a mechanic repair shop in the province that isn't desperate for honorable, high-quality mechanics. Not a one. They're desperate for these people. And in fact, if you read the book The Millionaire Next Door, that's a great book. It's an icon now in the business world. The Millionaire Next Door, it's got some age to it. It's probably been out for 25 years. One of the most interesting things in that book is that when you look at true millionaires, they're not white collar. They're blue collar. They're tradespeople. They're people who started at 18, 17, didn't go to college. The average vehicle is an F-150 pickup truck. It's not a Cadillac. It's not a Lincoln Town car. It's an F-150 pickup truck, and they don't have sophisticated credit cards. They use Visa, MasterCard, and they buy at the thrift store, and they're tradespeople. But they send their kids to college to get white-collar jobs, which then have a country club attachment to them, and they go indebted and mortgaged for life trying to keep up with the country club mentality of their white-collar job. And so the kids become, the parents are trades, blue-collar, true millionaires, and their kids just try to live like it. And they're in debt all their life and always trying to, tread water and get their heads above water, trying to keep up with the country club mentality that goes with being a doctor, an attorney, an accountant, or, IT, an engineer, technician. So don't worry about 5 years down the road. We don't make business plans. We don't even have a marketing goal. We got nothing, okay? All we do is every day try to step where we can see and where we think we should go for one more day. And do the same thing the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day. You're seeing something here, and the next day. And before you know it, you look back and you say, wow, we've really traveled somewhere. But if you start thinking you have to see where you're going to end up over there, you'll never start because it's too intimidating. It's too scary. It's too unknown. So I'll close with this story. A lot of times, doing something new, I hope you've heard some new ideas here today, maybe some new things to try to do. They're intimidating. Doing new things are disturbing in life. And the older we get, the harder it is to try something new because it's harder to pick yourself up when you fall down. Well, imagine the last Christmas shindig you had, with your family, all those crazy family people, that you have to spend time with because they're related to you. And so the adults are all sitting around talking, and the latest family addition, little Emily Sue, right? She's 8 months old. She's crawling around on the floor with her diaper, and all the adults are yik-yakking, catching up on the ears and heads. And suddenly, little Emily Sue, she comes over here and she kind of climbs up on a chair leg, she kind of climbs up and she kind of totters here, Suddenly, probably her mom, sees her first and says, oh, Emily stood up. She stood up. This is the first time she stood up. Look. Of course, Emily Sue, she's got this terrified look. And suddenly she realizes all the adults are looking at her. She hams it up, look, I'm the center of attention, loses her focus, loses her hand, plop, down her diaper. Right? So what does everybody do? Everybody gets around her and says, well, Emily Sue, if you can't walk any better than that, just quit. Is that what they say? No, they say, here, come here, he said, put your hands right here, put your hands right here, you do it again, As we grow older, folks, we hear this thing in our heads. Some, matriarch or patriarch back there saying, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing right. That's wrong. The truth is, if it's worth doing poorly first. Because nobody walks well, talks well, writes well, poops well. Well, I guess we poop, we just don't know where to put it. Nobody does this stuff skillfully first. And it doesn't bother kids. There, go along and have this. But as adults, we get these voices in the back of our heads. Oh no, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing right. I'm here to free you from that burden. If it's worth doing, it's worth doing poorly first. Who cares if you've never turned on an oven? Who cares if you've never gotten a chicken? Made a bale of hay, planted a carrot. If it's worth doing, it's worth doing poorly first. So I want to encourage you the next time you feel paralyzed or intimidated by fear of trying something new, promise me you'll look in the mirror and tell yourself in the mirror, first look at yourself, pull your diapers up, and tell yourself if it's worth doing, it's worth doing poorly first. Can you do that? Yeah. Good for you. Okay, let's take some questions. What's on your mind? We're at the end of the day. It's free reign. Don't feel like you've got to be constrained to this session. Just anything that's on your mind.